welcome to this month's edition of Working with QuickBooks. And today we're going to be talking about how to reduce QuickBooks errors and stop some of the bookkeeper fraud that occurs. And a couple things. One, every day our CPA firm we basically spend most of our day fixing errors that are made. And a lot of the errors are made just because one of the helpers has the access code and has the ability to get into everything and change everything. And if you're the owner, one of the worst things you can do, and I'm going to repeat this once now, and repeat it again at the end. I'm going to say it now and repeat it at the end, is to give anybody besides yourself your administrator code, because that gives them 100% ability to change anything and to hide anything, and as a matter of fact, more dangerously, to delete your file. I've had it happen at least twice that I can remember of where a bookkeeper had committed fraud and then deleted the file, and it was very costly for the owner, not only that because of the fraud, but because he had to hire us to recreate the whole file. So don't ever do that. Well, how do you stop that? Well, first thing you do is you create a user, and you give your employee or anybody else besides you, your partner, I don't care who it is. If you're the founder and you're a 55% partner, a 55% owner, and you got a partner for 45%, you alone have the administrative code. So what I would recommend is to set up everybody has their own password. So what you do is you go up here in the menu bar up at the top and you click on company. And the fifth one down, you're going to see set up users. You crawl over to the right and you hit set up users, and we're going to add a user. And we're going to set up Betty Bookkeeper. Betty Bookkeeper. All right, we're going to give her a real tough password. 1234. 1234. I said, sorry about that. 1234. We're not going to add her to the license. I mean, you should. If you have it on two computers, make sure you have two licenses. But if she's going to, you're going to be there. You're going to have, let's say, you're going to have, in our example, Betty Bookkeeper is going to be a college kid that comes in after work, after school, and is just going to have one job, and that's basically to enter the bills. We're a manufacturing company, and all the invoices that are coming in from our vendors is starting to take up some time, and we're just going to have her come in 2, 3, 4 hours a week, let's say 5 hours a week, and enter the bills for us so we don't have to mess with it. Plus, we're helping them out. So we say next, and this first screen pops up and says, "Hey, what are we going to let Betty Bookkeeper do?" Well, the first thing you notice there's three options. Let's start at the bottom and let's talk about the external accountant. If you have an accountant, a CPA like myself or anybody else that you're going to hand a copy of your QuickBooks file to, and they're going to do a tax return at the end, you should set up this, because what it does is it doesn't give them access to any sensitive customer data, in particular the credit card numbers, and you could be held liable if that information gets out. And even if even if you didn't let it out, if your accountant for whatever reason let it go out, you're still liable. So this doesn't allow them to get credit cards and keeps a lot of sensitive information out. You don't really want to do access to all areas of QuickBooks, but let's just say we click that button. Well, notice what pops up. I got a warning with a big yellow triangle with an exclamation mark in the middle. And when I'm doing my QuickBooks trainings, I always say the same thing. Look, folks, when this warning pops up, do three things. First, get your hands away from the keyboard, because we're all guilty of that. Yeah. I know what I want to do. Just let me do it. All right. Second thing is read what it says. And then the third thing is think through the implications of what that's trying to tell you. So I took my hands off the keyboard. So now I'm going to read. Are you sure you want to give Betty Bookkeeper access to all areas of QuickBooks, including payroll, check writing, customer credit card numbers, and other sensitive information? Wait a minute. This is a bookkeeper. This is a college student who doesn't know anything about business, and I don't need her to see that I build $500,000 in business because she thinks we're rich when we have like $498,000 that has to go out in billings, and she doesn't need to know what everybody else is being paid. And for God's sake, she doesn't need to have the customer credit card number. So no, let's say no. So let's pick this one and say selected areas of QuickBooks, and it says you will make selections in the screens that follow. So let's click. And you notice there's going to be 9 screens. And the first one is going to say sales and accounts receivable. Well, I'm not going to, all she's going to do is enter vendor bills. So I'm going to say no access, and hit next. Go back a second. Notice even if I give selected information, I have to click this box to allow this person to have access to credit card numbers. So if you're really thinking about this, click on this link and read your responsibilities before you do this. But that's an aside. Let's go back to my example. Let's say no access here. Purchases and accounts payable. All right, I can give them full access because that's what I want them to do, but not really. All I want them to do is create selected access. So let's read it. Create transactions only, create and print transactions, create transactions, and create reports. Well, I don't think she needs the reports of any sort. She doesn't need to know what I owe. Well, she'll find out. But I probably want to do this one because I probably want her to be able to create and print the transactions so she can check her work. So let's just do that. Checking credit card. I probably want her to have the ability to pay the bills, but she doesn't. I don't want her to be able to print it. So I'm going to give her selected access, create transactions only. Time tracking. She has no reason to be in that. Payroll and employees, no reason to be in that. Sensitive accounting activities, which include these areas, allow the user to perform activities such as transfer funds between accounts. Heavens no. Make general journal entries. No, 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 no. And do online banking. Oh, no, not at all. I mean, so we're going to say no access here. Sensitive financial reporting. She has no reason to see this. I only want her to enter bills. Change or delete. Now, this is a good one. You have to decide. I, I, I kind of think, people make mistakes. The only people that don't make mistakes aren't working. So, it doesn't hurt you as long as you limit anything else they can do. Can't do journal entries, can't, print anything. It's basically all they can do is print the transactions that they put in, and that's it. They can't change them. I'd probably let them change it. That way, if they find an error, they can correct it. Now, we're going to talk next month about how you really need to review things in order to catch bookkeeper fraud. But without access to the checkbook and not being able to print checks, and by the way, obviously, you should keep control of all checks so that you make sure that nobody's stealing checks. In fact, you probably ought to think about online bill pay. And for God's sakes, please don't give that PIN number out. You get assigned a PIN number and a password. You sure as heck, if you're doing online bill pay, don't give that away. This second one says, should this user also have the ability to change or delete transactions that were recorded before the closing date? Closing date is like the year end, and no, there's no reason for them to have that at all. Now we go to 9, and it basically gives you a chance to review it, and if you did something you don't like, you can go back and change it. If we look at Betty Bookkeeper, what we've done is given them the ability to put in purchases and accounts payable in the print so they can look at it, and the ability to print checks, I'm sorry, to create checks but not to print. So now I hit finish, and you notice now all of a sudden Betty Bookkeeper is set up. So I'm going to hit close. Now let's see how it works. Well, the first thing we have to do is we now have to log off and then log back in. And what we're going to do is instead of signing in as admin, we're going to sign in as Betty Bookkeeper. All right, we're going to use that fantastic 1234 password, and it loads us in there. We're going to have to wait a second. Yeah, it's telling me it's a sample file. It's probably going to, let's see what else it decides. Oh yeah, it's going to bring the Learning Center up. We'll talk about that later. All right, so I'm here. Let's see what Betty Bookkeeper can do. Well, she can get in and enter bills, can get in and pay bills. We want her to be able to pick what bills to pay and everything. Probably can get in the chart of accounts, but probably can't do much with it once she gets in there. Can get in here, but again, can't do much. Well, yeah, actually, she can. She has to have access to here to be able to use payables. We'll talk about that at a future time. But, entering time, um, that's probably not a good one. Let's go to the Employee Center because I haven't set up the time tracking on this. And notice what it lets me see a little bit more than I wanted to see here. So they can see it, but they can't do a heck of a lot. They can't run payroll because if you look here, it says you do not have permission to view this information. And truthfully, if there was any payroll, it wouldn't let her see that either. Invoices, if you notice, I want to create an invoice. It says you don't have that kind of permission. If I go up to try to run a report, and let's see, I want to see what we're making, it says you don't have that kind of permission. So I've limited very much the damage that this person can do. I've also limited how much they can see. So hopefully this helps you. And again, like I promised, for heaven's sakes, do not give anybody the administrative password. You keep that one to yourself. If you learn nothing else out of this video, learn that. Hey, until next month, let's keep working on your QuickBooks file, and let's make this our most profitable year ever. Thank you very much.